Mr. Vijay and friends. Today I'm going to present to you the history of the Cold War. Cold War. Cold War was the continuing state from roughly 1946 to 1991 of political conflict with military tension, proxy wars and economic competition between the United States and the Soviet Union. It was basically considered as the war between the Western world and the communist world. There are few aims of the Cold War of the United States. First of all is to turn down the communist ideology, which is containment. Containment is the United States policy which plays an important role to stop the spread of communism through economical, military and social policies. And the United States wanted to have the Allied States of Soviet the right to gain independence without being actually controlled by the Soviet Union. And to prevent the domino effect of communism. Domino effect is considered is when a country is a part of communists and sooner the other neighboring country of that specific country will also turn communism. This is like the effect of the domino. When one falls down, the other follows as soon as possible. Space race. There are two major competitions that was faced by the United States and the Soviet. One of them is the space race. Space race was a technological and scientific competition between them of space exploration, which were seen necessary to attain first in technological advancement and scientific advancement. As we can see in the diagram, the United States has defeated the Soviet in the graph. The blue line shows the United States progress, and while the Soviet Union progress was shown in the red. We can see that through lunar orbit, which was the first man landing on the moon mission, the US has gained a comparatively high rise of the total progress of the space race. Besides the space race, there was a major race called arms race. It was actually related to the development of the nuclear weapon. Development of nuclear weapon as a source of energy and as a weapon for war purposes. Proxy war, the uniqueness of the Cold War is the presence of the proxy war. Proxy war is a war that results when opposing parties use third parties as a substitute for fighting each other directly. This can be found in the Cold War. Proxy war was used by US and Soviet in countries like in conflicts such as Afghanistan War, Korean War and Vietnam War. Few of the most important events in Cold War. There are a lot of important events and international tension between US and Soviet Union during the Cold War. But I'm going to explain few of those. The first one is the Berlin blockade. The second one is the Berlin crisis. The third one is the Korean War, and the last but not the least, the dissolution of the Soviet Union. There were numerous of international conflicts and high tensions between both of them. There were wars like Afghan wars, Vietnam wars, Korean wars. But I will talk in detail about Korean War because from what I observed is that the war are similar to each other in terms of aims and the involvement of the countries from the opposing parties. Berlin blockade. As we know that Germany was separated into several parts and ruled by different nations like United States, Soviet Union, French and United Kingdom. The US planned to give necessities to the German citizens once after the World War II. Soviets decided to block the Allied way to Berlin to give these necessities. Soviet wanted to give the necessities to themselves in order to gain control of the entire city and develop an image that communist cares for cares for Germany. But when the roads were blocked and all the access of land were blocked by the Soviets, the United States decided a plan of airlift called the Berlin Airlift, in which they carry the necessities through a plane, and every 30 seconds they would be able to supply the West Germany every 30 seconds. This is the picture shown of the Berlin citizens waiting for the arrival of the plane for the basic necessities. And this also shows the same thing, where the citizens are waiting for the plane to give them the necessities. These were shown the milk supply that is still being counted on the plane. This was the guy who actually made a plan to drop candies using small parachutes. He was considered a hero. This was the current monument of the Berlin blockade. Berlin crisis. As we all know that due to the Berlin blockade, many Germans thought that they would be more prosperous to move to West Germany, which was controlled by the United States. Therefore, there were numerous people escaping from East Germany to West Germany in order to gain prosperity. And the shift of the citizens were unbalanced. Most engineers, technicians, teachers, like lawyers, moved to West Germany, which causes an unbalance in the East Germany, leaving only mostly labor force in East Germany. Therefore, there were the unstable rate of citizens, unstable jobs in East Germany. Therefore, the leaders of Soviet decided to build the Berlin Wall in order to avoid people from moving to West Germany. And this was shown. The American tanks were confronted by the Soviet tanks in the Checkpoint Charlie. There's one quote that I like there was one quote that I like, which was spoken by John F. Kennedy. He said that it's not a very nice solution, but a wall, Berlin Wall, is a hell of a lot better than a war. John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev, the premier of Soviet Union, had reached to an agreement to build walls to avoid both parties coming to the opposing one. So it avoided the West Germans to go to East Germans and East Germans to go to West Germans. So this Berlin crisis was the start of the construction of the Berlin Wall to stop people from moving outside of their territory. Korean War. After Japanese defeat, Korea was divided into two, the North Korea and the South Korea. North Koreans were taken under control. Firstly, the United Nations wanted Koreans to be one independent state throughout, but this didn't work. Therefore, the Koreans were divided into two: the North Koreans and the South Koreans. North Koreans were controlled by the communist government, while the South Koreans were a republic. Due to the high tensions, Kim Il-sung, the first leader of North Korea, decided to invade South Korea in order to gain more territorial land. And this triggered the Korean War. President Truman, the United States President of America at that time, has decided to involve the United States into the war because he wanted to prevent the spread of communism by joining the war. Because there's one quote that is relevant to the point. If the communists were permitted to force their way into the Republic of Korea without opposition from the free world, no small nations will have the courage to resist the threat and aggression by stronger communist neighbors. So basically the plan of Korean War was to stop the spread of communism and also to provide independence of South Korea. This picture shows a bombing of the war facility in North Korea by the Americans. This was the Chinese soldier which was involved in the Korean War as an ally of North Korea. This was the USS Missouri, which is one of the most important American battleships. This picture shows that the spaceship was bombing a North Korean communication facility. Due to the end of Korean War, the Korean and the United Nations has reached an agreement to make a joint security area, or it is called the Korean Demilitarized Zone, the DMZ, which is shown here. This blockade shows the division of the North Koreans at the left side and South Koreans at the right side. So you can imagine how by one step, a people can actually cross a position's border. The result of the Korean War was quite good, in which the Republic of Korea has gained what actually was theirs, and North Koreans was just staying in the same position and same territorial land. As I said before, there is a lot of war, but all wars are similar. The basic aim of the United Nations was to spread the domino effect of communism throughout the world and to be able to give the right of independence to all nations. Soviet Union, the dissolution of Soviet Union. This was one of the most important events that stopped the Cold War. This started when Gorbachev, the last premier of Soviet Union, he decided to make a new policy in order to make the economy of the Soviet rise, which was collapsed at that time. He said that he will turn all the Soviet allied states which were inside the Soviet Union into a republic, but the military and economic control is under one hand. And this was not a very delightful news to most of the people of Soviet, because they have seen that this will destroy the communist ideology, and therefore many peoples and politicians has decided to attempt coup of Gorbachev, sending him to exile. And this was the picture of the August 1991 coup. And Boris Yeltsin showed up and defended the August coup and therefore sent Gorbachev into Moscow to rule again. And after Gorbachev ruled again, he failed. Slowly the power failed. A lot of communist states within Soviet Union slowly gained independence. And slowly it gained independence. And to prevent another coup to happen, which will resist them from getting independence, most states within Soviet Union finally disintegrate. And that's the end of the Cold War.